Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are once again live down here in the Bear Cave Studios for another episode of the Sports Frenzy Podcast, Sold Out. With me, your host, Freddie Aloso, with my co-host, the Devil's Advocate.
Did you forget?
I was gonna try to go with something with the I'm in the details, but I'm like, we'll just go with the Devil's Advocate.
Okay. Today in wrestling, 1972, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but today in 1972, Chris Candido was born. I was going to say, unfortunately, we lost him. And another birthday today that I wanted to bring up is Grayson Waller, born 1990.
Damn, 1990. That's crazy.
Just a kid.
And with the encyclopedia himself, Blackbeard.
And gentlemen, there's no little dick syndrome on this broadcast.
Coming in hot tonight.
Yeah.
Coming in.
Okay.
If you want some history and play for me to fill in for Jason, I could scroll through a wrestling historian's Instagram and throw some facts out. It's up to you.
No, let's keep it going.
That's Jason's thing. Let's
Reverend coming back soon. Hope he's enjoying his time out in the land of the rising sun.
And Taiwan. I think he's in Taiwan now.
And Taiwan.
He's on a world tour.
There he is. All right, so let's start it off. AEW. We talked about it briefly last week about AEW having their own women's show, a full women's show, similar to what WWE did a few years back. You got the encyclopedia and my reaction last week. The Devil, what'd you think? What do you think about this topic? What do you think? You think they can pull it off?
Well, I mean, look, I had originally written this down a few weeks ago, and then unfortunately I had to miss a few shows. So wanted just to revisit it because I just wanted to bring up a few things. First of all, Rampage is definitely considered like the C show, right? It's probably one step above Ring of Honor, and Ring of Honor is not even on TV. But I think they're missing an opportunity. Because if you look at the roster, let me just read you some of the names here. We have Anna Jay, we have Deonna Purrazzo, we have Sheeta, Julia Hart, Statlander, Frost, Mariah May, Mercedes Martinez, Red Velvet, Ruby Soho, Saraya. So, I mean, there's a pretty great roster of women. And if you think about it, what do they get? One, maybe two segments on a show. So where do you get the character development from? Where do you get the storylines from? You really don't, right? I mean, we have Thunder Rosa right now kind of pushing for the title. And we have Mercedes Moné. Looks like she's going to be challenging Julia Hart, right? So, I mean, the rest of the women are kind of Tony Storm gets thrown in the air here and there, but they really don't get any character development. They really don't have any time to develop. And we didn't even talk about Britt Baker not being on the show. I mean, there's a lot of talent. And if you figure they pull in maybe two or three more women, maybe a Tessa Blanchard or maybe a few more Japanese wrestlers, you've got a full roster of women that could probably run their own show. And my thoughts were that not only should they get their own show, but I think they need another belt. And I know Anthony's never a fan of adding more belts, but I think a tag team belt is appropriate here. Kind of gives them something to shoot for. And the other thought I might have is maybe downgrading the TBS belt to more like the TV title, and then having the AEW World Champion be the main title that everybody fights for. So a little reshuffling, giving them their own show, and adding tag team belts to make them look more like the men. I mean, I think the problem with AEW is with the women, like I said, is they're just not getting a chance to do anything. They're not given enough character development. They're not giving enough time to shine. So with Rampage ratings usually being in the dirt, what do you have to lose? Let's just throw Rampage. Let's say that's and you can further angles on Dynamite and Collision. I'm not saying the women shouldn't be on the other shows, but you can mainly focus them on Rampage and give it 6 months to a year and see what happens. See if it picks up any traction.
I was going to
I really don't.
the biggest
Go ahead.
thing would they be able to pull in the audience for it?
Well, the only way to find out is by trying.
Right.
Right. What do you keep signing women for then? If you're just gonna show them every once in a while or put them on Ring of Honor. I mean, I didn't even touch all the Ring of Honor women that I didn't even, like Athena and people like that. I didn't even mention any of them. I mean, think about it.
You'll probably get sued for that.
Well, that's all right. I have nothing, so let them take whatever they want. I just think it's worth a shot. I think, and it's an alternative to WWE, right? Because WWE is not doing something like that. So you could call yourself something different, distinguish yourself from everyone else. And then, you might start attracting some of that WWE talent if you're really, let's say someone like Bianca Belair becomes a free agent. That might be someone you might be able to draw over, and she's a draw in WWE. So, I don't know. I just was thinking about it the other night, a few weeks ago, and I was just saying to myself, with all this women, and like Taya Valkyrie is like barely on the show, and she's a former multiple-time champion. She's got a name, people know who she is, and she's rarely on the show. Maybe she's thrown in in a tag team match, and when they have the tag team matches, they really don't mean anything, right? They're kind of just moving a feud along or something like that. So I'm like, give them something to shoot for. See if it works. Put your money where your mouth is, and let's see if Mercedes Moné can really run a show. Can she bring people in? Let's see. Give it a year. See what happens. At the end of the year, reevaluate. If it doesn't work, then you've got plenty of evidence that it's just not the thing to do, and you can always switch Rampage back to more of a mixed show. Slowly phase all that stuff out. But I think that there's enough women on this roster and enough talent on this roster that they deserve a chance. So I like I said, I didn't really get to hear what you guys had to say. So I don't know if you want to recap that or not, or just
You think I remember what I said last week?
You
think I remember what I said last week? That's funny.
Okay, then what do you want to say now? This is a talk show.
I see two sides to it. I mean, I get Rampage isn't doing well, so why not give them the shot? The other side of the coin is, are you setting them up to failure because you're putting them on your lowest rated show, which is struggling for viewers as it is, and then if it gets even worse, who's going to get the blame? You know what I mean? That would be my concern with that. I'm not against them actually adding a tag team championship for the women's division. I would counter that with do unification of this continental and international title, because international and world has always confused me. It means the same freaking thing. So drop one of the men's titles. Yeah, all right, bring a women's tag team division there, because I think the main event on the live Rampage last night was a women's tag. It was Julia Hart and Sky Blue against Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander. We have had Anna Jay was teaming up with Ty Conti for a while before Ty Conti was pregnant. We saw Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter back in the day. There's plenty of options there. So a specific show, I wouldn't want to set them up for failure, so I would vote no for now. Tag belts, I definitely could agree with that.
Okay, that's fair. I didn't think about that. That's actually a good point, that maybe you're setting them up for failure.
I think if you could start it with a healthy mix, slowly integrate them more into Rampage as opposed to completely making it an all-women show. Just see, like you said, Encyclopedia, so you don't set them up for failure. So they don't get, the blame put on them of, well, you guys couldn't carry the show and now it's fully shit and now we can't even do anything with it. Like, at least give them a chance to succeed, because there are very many talented women in that division that deserve more of a chance than what they're getting.
You guys don't think they should start another show, right? Maybe pivot away from Rampage and just create another hour of television just featuring women? Or you think we've already got way too much wrestling on TV as it is?
I think there's way too much already. I think the market is so oversaturated. Like, look, we try to recap and catch up every week, and we're still behind on, say, Dark Side of the Ring or the biographies on A&E. Like it's a lot of content to try to digest in a short period of time.
It's a good point too. Yeah, I mean, all good points. I wonder, what the future holds. I mean, why keep signing all these women if you're going to only feature them once every couple of weeks?
Right.
And like Anthony always says, the new toy, right? They come in, they get a couple of weeks of TV time, and then they get pushed to the side for the next one. So I was just trying to think of a way to, you're spending a lot of money on a lot of talent, and you're really not getting your money's worth because they're not performing for you, right? So I was trying to figure out a way to
boost that, or at least
fix
help
that, right? But yeah, it's just some thoughts I had. Okay.
So Mercedes, Tony Khan thinks she should be the face of AEW. Encyclopedia, the look of disgust on your face. Please enlighten us on this.
No, the look of disgust on my face is the text messaging going on my phone. Sorry. No. I like Mercedes Monet. I'm sorry, Monet. I think that's how she was saying it. I really like her. Face of AEW though, I feel like that's a stretch. We've had big names there before. I'd say Jericho's much bigger name than she's ever been. Sting, much bigger name than she's ever been. I'd say she's probably on even keel or slightly below a Moxley. Bryan Danielson, bigger name than her. So face of AEW, I think that's a stretch at this point. I mean, if they keep losing viewers, then you wanted to go that route. And the legends that are bigger names in WWE than she has are no longer in the picture, then maybe. But right now, I don't know. I mean, excuse me, she's been all over that show like last night. The ratings aren't going up. I mean, did they really go up? Not that much. So I like her a lot. Would I love to see her succeed as the faces of AEW? I think that would be great. I don't see it. I don't think we're going to see game-changing ratings increases here. That's just my thought. I think WWE would be better at marketing her than AEW. And I'm not trying to crap on AEW. AEW is catering to that hardcore wrestling fan audience, the internet wrestling community. The people that like true wrestling, they don't care about the storylines and what have you. That's great. That's an niche audience. But you can't claim to be the number one company when WWE is pulling in double the viewers you are. And I don't see Mercedes Moné changing that. That's all I'm trying to get at. I don't think people are going to tune in because, oh, look, Mercedes is number one. Maybe they build her up over time and that could happen. But right now, this CEO character, it's good. I don't think it's great.
Yeah, I agree with you. And plus, like, she's getting heat in the back already for comments that she made about wanting to go back to WWE when her contract is up. The money that she's making twice or three times more than some of the women that have been there since day one. So they already put her behind the 8-ball in the back. And then to try to put this pressure on her, I don't know if it's you build her up slowly and let her gain her reputation back and clout with the fans instead of just dropping her in and making her the pariah to the fans and to the people in the back. Like, I feel like they're doing her a disservice in that aspect.
I mean, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Someone is going to have to explain to me what makes Mercedes Moné so special. I don't get it. I never have. I never will. I'm trying to figure out.
Explain it then. If you never will, I'm not going to waste my time.
I'm just going to go on. I don't really understand. Like, I'm trying to figure out if Tony Khan was bidding against himself. I don't remember WWE making some kind of super offer like that she had to weigh the two offers. They might have thrown an offer out there, but I doubt it was anywhere near what Tony Khan paid her. And like Freddie said, I don't understand how she could automatically say, "Oh, I can't wait to get back to WWE." I mean, what the hell?
Yeah, you haven't even had your first screen TV time, and you're already
talking about go right. I mean, that's like you accepting a job and going, "Man, I can't wait to go to my next one." What?
Yeah. What?
I just signed with the Yankees. Man, I can't wait to play for the Cardinals. What? I mean, I'm sorry. I don't, like I said, I don't get it. I don't think she's worth the money. I don't think she's in the long run. She's going to be worth it. And the other thing that I don't really understand is the TBS title and the world title both show up on the same show, but are they on the same level? Because the TBS championship to me sounds like the US title, and the AEW World Championship sounds like the one I would want if I was coming after somebody. Right? So she's automatically going after a secondary title, which doesn't really fit in with the way they're bringing her in my opinion. But I mean, they're going off the natural heat she has with what's her name, Willow. So I get that part. Like, if you just want to have her come in and say, I need to get my revenge on her for that, that's fine. Start there. But when you start bringing Julia Hart and stuff, I'm like, so we're fighting for the secondary title? Shouldn't she be going after? I don't know.
You're the CEO and you're going after second place?
Right. The CEO is cleaning up after everybody. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand.
I think so. And now I remember something I said last week. I thought they were going that route because everybody, the AEW fans who read up and keep track of every wrestling event known to man, know that Willow Nightingale was Mercedes' opponent when she had her injury last year. So they're trying to at least get that storyline out of the way. I don't know that she's necessarily going after the TBS title. I think she wants Willow Nightingale, and she is kind of watching over Willow Nightingale until she gets that match and gets her revenge. The other thing is I think they saw money in Toni Storm and Deonna Purrazzo continuing, or I think I said this to Freddie last week. I think they're saving Mercedes versus Toni because that's the money match right now in that women's division, but they're saving it for a bigger show than Destiny. I think it's going to happen at Double or Nothing. So I think it's the timing of they happen to be in Boston. They introduced Mercedes Moné, but they got 2 months to get to that match. And they don't want to throw it away at some new pay-per-view. I mean, I could see the point, but it also makes your new pay-per-view look kind of cheap. Which, what have they announced? One match so far?
Well, I think it's funny when they start like announcing, like I'm glad they're trying to plan ahead. But when you say like, Anthony, I'm going to beat you up 6 months from now,
right.
I go, why not
cash.
now? Why do we have to wait 6 months?
Right.
Like, a lot of bad things can happen between now and then where maybe one of us aren't going to be able to wrestle. You know what I mean? Like,
Rob, I couldn't take you in a fight. I'm sorry.
Well, we all know that, but my point is like Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson is a money match, right? I mean, everybody wants to see that match. A lot of things can go wrong between that. Like now with next week, Will Ospreay is fighting Shibata. Well, what if he gets hurt?
You wasted it.
Like they're not wise when they're what is that? Penny wise and dollar wise and penny foolish, or I forget the way that one goes.
Something like that.
But you get my point. Is they've got this money match. They should keep them as like, especially someone like Danielson, who's a little on the older side and is a little more prone to injury. Like you're kind of setting yourself up for failure if you don't keep him away from guys that can hurt him.
Right. And
that Shibata match was rough. Like Danielson doesn't play. If he's going to wrestle, he's in. And if he's going to get hurt, it's because he's fighting hard. And I'm like, why do we always have to wait so long for all these matchups? Like sometimes I get it. Like I like what they're doing with Swerve and Samoa Joe. I think they're kind of building up the tension between the two of them because there really wasn't any. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you're risking that too. Now next week he's got what's his name? They've got Don Callis guy. I can't think of his name right now. Swerve.
Takeshita.
Yes, thank you. I mean, that's going to be a hard hitting match. There's a, you know what I mean? Like Whatever happened to setting up these guys with like tomato cans along the way? Like, why do we have to fight every main event? Why do we have to every match have to be a 4-star? Give me Trent Beretta, you know what I mean, and let me beat him up for a little while, and then take a couple weeks off, and then set us up for the match. You know, why does it have to be like boom, 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 one after the other? Like, you're asking these guys, you're breaking down your guys. You can't ride your car at 100 miles an hour all the time. Sometimes you gotta hit the brake. And Tony Khan, I think, he's got all these cards, and he's like, "Oh, let's make this guy." Like, I think he's in the back with action figures, and he's like, "Oh, let's put these two guys together." You know, and I'm like,
WWE blue ring.
I'm like, Tony, man, calm down. You know, calm down. But we don't have to blow our wad right away. We can let things settle.
Well, that's what he does.
Let things simmer. You know, I don't know.
He I get what you're saying. I don't totally disagree, but I think the problem is now people expect him to put in these big matches. I don't think there's a real good way to protect some of these guys. First off, some of these guys do not have a presence in the U.S. necessarily, like Okada or Ospreay. They're not getting a reaction that people feel they should be getting for the money they're getting paid.
It's fair.
But even WWE, look at the shit show WrestleMania was just 2 months ago. You had Punk get injured in the Royal Rumble, and then you had Seth Rollins get injured. Now, miraculously, Seth Rollins somehow got cleared already. But now we're getting Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins. So it's a delicate balance. The problem with AEW is sometimes they really build these matches up over time. And you mentioned it, Samoa Joe versus Swerve 1-on-1. We're getting a big build for that. It's going to take some time to get back to that match. But then you get Okada versus Eddie Kingston, which you could have set that up going in all the way to Destiny. Nope, we're going to throw it away on Dynamite. First chance we got.
Yeah, and you're going to have Okada win.
Yeah.
Right, immediately.
I mean, you could have made that.
Which I necessarily don't have a problem with that, because he was a big name in Japan and he does have a reputation. But I think they could have given him a couple matches to squash a few people to show that how great he is before you put him in the ring with Kingston and have Kingston lose immediately. I don't know.
Build him up. Like, there was zero build. Like, okay, it's Okada, and here he's a champion. Why? Why should he be champion? Give us some backstory. Give us a reason to get behind this guy before you throw a title on him immediately. But it's the Tony Khan special at the fucking Dell this week.
You know,
and
when Okada won, I don't know if did you guys notice that the Young Bucks were backstage and there's Tony Khan sitting there with a little headset on, and I'm like, see, this is the problem. Number one, we should never see Tony Khan, and number two, there should be more levels in between him and what's going on in the ring, because I think what's happening is anybody who gets his ear gets what they want. I think that's the booking, right? It's just, oh, this would be a great match, do it. And I'm like, yeah, it would be a great match. It'd be even a better match if you set it up a little better. You know, I mean, why did we get Wardlow and Samoa Joe on TV? Wouldn't that be a pay-per-view match that people would want to see, a rematch between the two guys? Instead, Wardlow lost, got beaten pretty decisively after destroying people week after week on TV. Samoa Joe beat him pretty easily. And now he's out of the picture. Right?
Wasn't that the more meat match?
No, it was supposed to be, but then it ended up being like 8 guys or some shit like that. Because Jericho was in there, and but they did that. They've been doing that with the what is it? The Casino Battle Royal. It's always been a Dynamite title shot for whatever reason. And then what was the one that they had? It's the ladder match with the Sonic the Hedgehog ring.
Oh yeah, that was bad.
Oh yeah, I can't think of it right now.
Last ring, shit like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but that title shot was always on Dynamite a few weeks later. But yeah, Wardlow versus Samoa Joe on that when Wardlow first got that number 1 contendership, I automatically thought, okay, they're going to build this up to the pay-per-view, and then they were like this Wednesday, and I was like, Okay.
I mean, that's why I don't even understand why Wardlow won that match. Like, you should have had Hobbs or somebody else win it. Like, because Hobbs is good, he's not ready to be champion. So you could have had him win, and then he loses to Samoa Joe, and you're like, all right, Hobbs is still young, he's still learning, he's going to get his shot. But Wardlow, you were like, Wardlow's got to win the belt at some point, right? I mean, he's like their Superman. And then doesn't even lose through strange means. He just gets choked out. And you're like, holy shit, really? That's it? I mean, he's going to bolt as soon as his contract is up. He's going right across the street. You know that, right?
Oh,
he's not even going to look back.
Yep, he's gone. When is his contract up, by the way? Let's see.
Oh, you'd have to look that up. I have no idea, but it's got to be soon.
I was going to say, that's where we need a spot track website like they do for the other sports.
Yeah,
I don't think we know. I don't think we know. I mean, while you're looking that up, like going back to the Okada win, I get that most AEW fans probably know who he is, but I don't think everybody does. And I don't think I think the ratings are reflecting that. So you could have built up to that match, at least to Destiny. That's just my thought there. I mean, I know who Okada is because, quite frankly, Rob, you told me to watch his matches against Kenny Omega. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have bothered. And I think,
go ahead.
And I think Tony Khan just assumes that his fan base and all wrestling fans watch New Japan and know who this guy is. They don't. Like, if he went over to WWE, I doubt very seriously they're going to just parade him out there immediately and think people know who he is. I think the only one that they kind of did that with was AJ Styles. But guess what? AJ Styles, yes, he was in New Japan and came over to WWE, but he was also an Impact. He had a U.S. presence before, so at least he was
the only
known.
guy I can say they probably did that with was Nakamura, because I don't think a lot of people who knew who Nakamura was before he came over. I mean,
he started in NXT, but he started in NXT.
But my point being is, they build them up, right? I mean, there's something to be said for surprises, and there's something to be said for building somebody up. And somebody like Okada, they should have been showing videos of him 3 months before, like when he signed. For the next 3 months, they should have been building him up, showing videos of him in Japan, showing people he's beaten. And that's, to me, that's where you can kind of throw like your WWE references in, because you can reference guys like he beat AJ Styles. Oh, wait, AJ Styles. I wonder where I've seen him before. And he beat, Kenny Omega. Oh, I wonder where, you know what I mean? Like, they can kind of do all that. And when he finally shows up on TV, you're like, hey, there's the guy that beat AJ Styles. Hey, there's the guy that beat Kenny Omega. Instead, they have Okada show up, and you're like the 50% of people who know who he was are like, cool. And the other 50 are like, oh, there's another Japanese guy. They like that other, where's the bald guy? No, that's not him. What about, no, you know what I mean? It's the same thing they did with the Mexico guys, right? You have these CMLL guys show up out of nowhere, no build, no nothing, and immediately gets squashed.
It's like when WWE brought in the AAA guys for the 97 Royal Rumble.
And you're like, you're telling me these guys are great, and then they're getting beaten by like our mid-carders. I mean, come on. I mean, I don't get it. I love AEW. I really do. I want them to succeed, but sometimes I just watch a show, and like, if I think too hard, I'm like, I don't understand any of this. If I just watch it for the strict entertainment value, I get it. If I start trying to figure out where they're going with some of these things and why some of these things happen, my head starts to hurt. Freddie, is it that hard to find Wardlow's contract?
I can't find it anywhere. There's nothing here saying anything about the actual length of his contract.
All right. No big deal.
Yeah. I think it's up soon because there is a lot of internet chatter about it, but there's no actual definitive date of when his contract is up.
You got it circled on his calendar.
Right. But he's long in the tooth too in wrestling years. He's born in 88, so he's in his 30s.
Damn, he's old.
36, in wrestling years, that's older, You got the youth movement kind of going on in WWE, and they're trying to phase out some of those older guys, but I guess we'll have to wait.
Speaking of phasing out older guys, am I echoing? Am I echoing still?
No, you're good. I've got
now.
you.
Okay. I was going to say I hear an echo, but Freddie didn't say anything, so I assumed we're okay.
Speaking of older
Technical
guys,
difficulties, folks.
Is it really time? Isn't it time for Chris Jericho to step away?
It's been time for Jericho to step away.
That match against Hook was terrible.
When he fell off the top of the cage, it was time for Jericho to go away for a while.
Jericho, Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, thank you for your contributions. Would you like a backstage role? No? All right, then we're going to have to say goodbye.
The Hardys are trying to get back for WrestleMania, from what I heard.
I heard Matt Hardy's contract is up at the end of this month.
Is.
He's actually said it on his podcast, which
it is. Yeah.
I wouldn't sign him.
I mean, there's really no room for guys like him anymore.
I mean, I like him, but unless he's going to go down to NXT and try to help the next generation, I wouldn't put him on the main roster.
Yeah, there's no room for him there.
There was a time where I wanted to legit see him in the main event scene and get a title shot. We are probably a decade past that at this point.
When he first started in AEW, that was the time to do that.
Yeah.
And I mean, and Jericho to me is just looking slower and slower. And I wish these guys would walk away before they're forced to walk away. Like at one point he threw Hook into the corner and he was running towards the corner. I swear I thought I was watching on slow motion. I'm like, he just doesn't have it anymore.
He's 53, man. He's an old dude.
Look, I'm going to be 55 in 2 weeks. I get it. I'm not fast. I wasn't really fast to begin with. I'm slower now. Right? I know my limitations. Okay.
I'm remembering that time we were playing baseball, and you were and I was like, "Why did you keep running?" And you're like, "I tried to put it into second gear, and then I realized I didn't have one."
Yeah. Real quick, Freddie. I was rounding. The guy got a base. I was on second. I was rounding third, and I fell. And when I got back to the dugout, one of the guys was there. Went, "What happened?" I said, "Well, I went to turn it on into another gear, and I realized I don't have any other gears." So
it's bad, man.
It just happens. I mean, it's time. And it's nice that he's put Jericho put Hook over. But I'm hoping like his announcement next week is like he's gonna try to like manage him or something. I hope he doesn't continue. I really don't. I mean,
it's tag team.
They already teamed though.
It was supposed to, yeah, right. But I think they're trying to build them up as a tag team. And I think this was supposed to be Sammy Guevara, who got himself suspended. I didn't look at it as, oh, Jericho looks terrible. I look at it as, and I legit thought he got dropped in his head on that first suplex. And I actually, as it kept going, I was like, no, he's freaking selling it. He's trying to put him over as a machine that, a suplex machine that like his father, that he just can't figure him out. But the funny thing was,
later in the match, he went to throw Hook, and instead of flipping him over, he threw him, and Hook landed face first on the mat.
I did see that.
Yeah.
So I mean, he didn't have the strength to throw him hard enough to have him rotate.
What was Jericho ever really known for his strength though?
No, but Hook is like 290 pounds. I can see having trouble throwing Wardlow, Samoa Joe, but Hook is small on the smaller side.
Yeah,
he should be able to still manage that. And if you can't, then you really have to either need to throw that move out, or you need to step away.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know.
Speaking of the old timers, WWE's Hall of Fame.
Hold on. I'm playing Hall of Fame music.
That is.
Nailed it.
Wow, when I close my eyes,
it's like I'm there in the arena.
and I've got really bad seats.
And the speaker just went out next to me.
I've got a destructive view.
Folks, I hope you're watching this on YouTube, because if you're listening to this in your car, you probably need to go to Best Buy and get some new speakers right now.
Yeah. So we got an opinion take this week for Hall of Fame. Encyclopedia, since this is your baby here, bring us in on this one.
Sure. So last week it was announced that the U.S. Express, the tag team, are going into the Hall of Fame. That's Mike Rotundo and Barry Windham. However, Mike Rotundo is also probably more well known for playing the character of IRS. In WCW, he was Michael Wall Street. He was VK Wall Street. So,
Captain Mike Rotundo.
Thank you, Captain Mike Rotundo. So, my question, and this is more of an opinion. We also had a couple years ago, Scott Hall went into the Hall of Fame, but he was specifically pegged as Razor Ramon in his induction. So, what are our thoughts on whether it should be the individual going into the Hall of Fame, the one who played the role, the actor or actress, so to speak, or is it the character that should go in? Does anyone have any thoughts on that, or is there like a gray line here? So that's what I was trying to get at with this, because I'm curious to hear what people think. Like, another example, Kane. Does Kane go in, or does Glenn Jacobs go in? And if you're putting Glenn Jacobs in, you're also technically putting in the man that was fake Diesel. Isaac Yankem, Unabomb, Rob, before we started, mentioned the Christmas something or other. I don't
Christmas
remember.
creature.
Yeah. So
I think if the character is so iconic and game changing, I believe you should be able to go in as both. You should be able to go in as Scott Hall and Razor. Or you should be able to go in as Diesel and Kevin Nash. You know, like you should be able to go in as two separate entities in the Hall of Fame. But there should be a level where you have had to pass. Like you can't just be Coco Beware and go in as Coco Beware and whatever his real name is. Like, no, like that's
not his real name.
Well, yeah, I just think you should have a distinction if the character is an iconic, game-changing, record-breaking character.
Okay, so your example, Kevin Nash and Diesel. You're saying both the character Diesel and Kevin Nash.
I'm saying I gave that as an example as two different,
right.
But you know, who else was there that was on that level that you can say played multiple characters and was able to be, you know, game changing?
I have a problem with people getting into the Hall of Fame more than one time. I don't know why Barry Windham, as part of the U.S. Express, gets in, and then also as part of the Four Horsemen. He's Barry Windham. It should just be Barry Windham and all his various personas, teams, whatever. I don't know why the U.S. Express gets in and then the Four Horsemen gets in. Barry Windham is already in.
Right.
So, okay, so your argument is that if the individual played multiple characters, it should be the individual across the board, and you don't. So, for example, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Hulk Hogan, and half the WCW roster at one point were NWO. So you're saying Kevin Nash should go in, but not necessarily go in the second time as part of the NWO.
It's hard to reconcile that, because I was trying to come up with like something that's parallel to this, and there really isn't. Like when you win an Academy Award for playing a character, you don't go in for the character, you go in for yourself, right? Robert De Niro goes in as Robert De Niro, not as the character he played.
Right.
John Corleone. Yeah.
Or whoever or whatever. You know what I mean? So Kevin Nash, wrestling's a weird place because you can have Diesel, you can have Kevin Nash, but he's never going to get inducted as Oz or Vinny Vegas, right? But it was him. So why can't you induct him by his real name and then in parentheses put all of his characters? Or something along those lines. So Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, the Diamond Stud, you know, all the guys he played, because it's all Scott Hall in the end. It's all Kevin Nash in the end. He just played a character. So nominate the man for his work, and then, you know.
But it's also it's a way to sell tickets to the next Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but
you know, like,
I mean, are they really making a ton of money off the Hall of Fame? No,
not especially not now. It's part of a SmackDown
ticket. House show. Yeah, it's part of it. They're not making any money. And if you're going to induct the NWO, I think it's interesting that they cherry pick characters. You're going to induct the Four Horsemen, you cherry picked who you wanted. Well, no, there was but I hate to say it, but Paul Roma was a horseman, like it or not.
Mm.
So when you induct the Four Horsemen, it should be all members of the Four Horsemen. It should be all members of the NWO. It's not fair for them to pick the ones that are most popular, because the guys didn't make the choice. Like they were said, you're going to join the NWO, and then you were put in the NWO, right? I mean, so you should be in the Hall of Fame as part of the NWO. Your name should be on that roster. Maybe, you know, you're not individually in there, but you're in as part of the NWO. I thought that was weird when they were Four Horsemen. To me, the Four Horsemen are Ole Anderson, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, and Ric Flair. Barry Windham was in the Four Horsemen for a couple of months, but they didn't have a case of the ass with Ole Anderson, so Ole Anderson didn't get in.
So Four Horsemen. Let's go with that example.
Mm-hmm.
When Four Horsemen was with Windham and not Ole,
mm-hmm.
were they not iconic? Were they not main event level? Were they not game changing? So Ole
and Arn were first.
And I'm totally getting that. I guess what I'm trying to get at is, okay, if you induct the Four Horsemen, in my mind, I would put in the individuals that were part of the Four Horsemen that were part of that iconic status they reached. So maybe Barry Windham, Paul Roma absolutely would not go in, would not have him on the stage. I didn't watch a ton of NWA back then, obviously, but do you think Barry Windham should go in? Do you think Lex Luger should go in as part of the Horsemen? Do you include the Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko?
That's what I was saying.
Sting was part of the Four Horsemen for a spell.
Do you? Okay, Sting's another one.
The plaque should be the Four Horsemen, and underneath that should be all the members,
including Roma, even
all of them.
Okay,
good, bad, or indifferent. He was a Four Horseman, whether you liked it or not.
See, I feel
not
like
saying he has to be up on the stage.
Yeah, Go ahead.
I mean, you induct the Fabulous Freebirds, and when everybody thinks of the Fabulous Freebirds, they think of Terry Gordy, Michael Hayes, Buddy Roberts, but Jimmy Garvin was a Freebird, and I think they included him. I know he was part of the induction. I think they might have included him, but I mean that just breaks their own rule then.
Right? See, but this all started with the Horsemen, right? If I'm not mistaken, that went in as a complete entity.
I'm trying to think. Was it them? I'd have to think about that one. I don't know if there's if they were the first.
Because if it was them, then you have the Benoit case, and then that's why they didn't do the whole.
No, I don't think that's. I don't think that came as a consideration. I think they picked.
They picked the
four guys they thought were the most popular. Because Ole was not going to be. Ole would have been first choice.
Ole wasn't going to do it. Yeah.
And they weren't going to pick him. So the next guy they picked was Barry Windham. But I mean, like you said, Lex Luger, Steve McMichael, Jeff Jarrett, all Four Horsemen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the NWO had more scrubs than stars at one point.
Yeah.
And yet they went with the three that they thought would sell the most tickets, who would show up and be able to talk and stuff. But meanwhile.
Oh, I heard they reached out to Ole, and Ole said, absolutely not. I'm not coming.
I mean, I still, I don't know. Barry Windham would not have been my next choice. And I love Barry Windham. I thought he was a great wrestler.
So the first group was in 09, and it was the Von Erichs.
Yeah, I mean, there's a really good example. I mean, Kevin, Kerry, and David definitely Hall of Famers. You know, David.
Fritz?
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, David, you know, unfortunately died young, but I think he would have had a Hall of Fame career. They were planning on making him NWA champion, so I think he would have been Hall of Fame. Kevin and Kerry, but then you put in Mike and Chris. I mean, no offense, but neither one of them were. I mean, Chris was hardly a wrestler. Mike, hardly a wrestler, you know, for whatever we're going to need to go through the Von Erich story. And again, I'm not trying to disparage the dead, but the only way they'd get into the Hall of Fame if they were alive is they bought a ticket. Right? I mean, they didn't make the grade, but they just kind of fell into that umbrella. And that's okay. That's fine. You know, they're part of that family, and I don't have a problem with it. But like, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Horseman, it was Flair, Wyndham, Anderson, Blanchard, and JJ. So I suspect, was Wyndham in the first incarnation after Ole? Like he replaced Ole in a sense? No,
Lex Luger was in before Wyndham.
Yeah, so I'm wondering why. I figured, all right.
Sid Vicious?
Okay, so my guess is, it was 2012. Ole said no. Luger was still not in WWE's good graces after everything that went down with him and then Elizabeth and all that. So maybe that's why it wasn't Lex and they went with Wyndham. I don't know. Or I guess, like you said, I think that's what you said. You probably could have just left Wyndham out and inducted the rest. I don't. The Fabulous Freebirds. It was Michael Hayes, Terry Gordy, Buddy Roberts, and Jimmy Garvin. Any arguments there?
No.
Okay.
But there were other Freebirds,
which didn't go in. So.
Right. So I mean,
pick and choose. I
pick and choose. And again, it's not the biggest deal in the world. I mean, it's the whole, WWE Hall of Fame. What's a big deal? It's just the rules are interesting. They tend to.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's a fantasy land because there's no actual Hall of Fame.
Right. You get a ring.
Which I still think, even if it was a traveling Hall of Fame that they just displayed as an extra feature when you go to a show, when you could go walk through the Hall of Fame and they open up the crates and stuff there. I mean, that's still something. But yeah, I think for me the first, because I didn't know a ton about the Horsemen outside of the original incarnation. And then the last one, so I totally don't have an opinion on the in between because I just wasn't there. But when I remember when the NWO went in, it was Hogan, Nash, Hall, and Six Pack, Sean Waltman, and I was like, Sean Waltman wasn't in there long enough. Why the hell's he's part of the clique? That's because otherwise I was like, I didn't think Sean Waltman should go in as part of NWO. Now DX I got. That made sense to me.
He was a big part of DX.
Yeah. In fact, DX is probably one of the few where every member contributed in some way. Except for Hornswoggle, but I don't count him.
Yeah, I don't count Hornswoggle as actually a part of DX.
Yeah. But DX, I think, it was Triple H, Shawn Michaels. Yeah, I was there, duh. Triple H, Shawn Michaels, China, Road Dogg, Billy Gunn, and X-Pac. No arguments there. But when Shawn Michaels went the NWO, I was like, what was he in there? Like less than a year and a half tops? And I don't remember him making.
I mean,
he got fired.
Ric Flair's in what 3 times? He's in his Ric Flair. He's in his one of the Horsemen. He's in one of his Evolution. It's still all Ric Flair in the end.
Did Evolution go in?
Did they go in? I could be wrong on that one.
No, you might be right. I'm checking.
But I thought they did.
They're not in.
So I mean, at some point they're going to induct them.
Still. Right.
So Flair is going to go in the 3rd time.
Right. So I mean, why though? You know what I mean? Like, why on his plaque? Why didn't it just say he was 16-time champion, and he was a member of the Four Horsemen, and he was a member of Evolution, and he wiped his ass 3 times last Thursday. I don't get it. He's in already. You don't get in the Baseball Hall of Fame 3 times. You get in once.
Yeah, but Baseball Hall of Fame, you're not inducting the team either. You're inducting the individual across the board. Where I think for wrestling, like if you had a legacy as an individual and as part of a faction and as part of a tag team, I could see it in those cases, but I think it's tough. I think it really depends on the individual and the character. Like Kane, absolutely, Hall of Famer. Glenn Jacobs as a whole, no. Absolutely not.
What about corporate Kane?
That was
I want to
still
see
Kane.
him. I want to see him come up in his Christmas creature outfit. If he will willing to do that, I'll put him in the Hall of Fame as a Christmas creature. I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
So, unless we got anything else, I think that's our episode for this evening, fellas.
So we are what, 2 weeks away from the WrestleMania prediction show?
Yes. NXT.
Yep.
I think I'm going to miss the WrestleMania prediction show. I'm going to be in Chicago.
I thought you were flying back that day. Okay.
I am, but I'm flying back that night. I don't know what time I'm getting in. I might just sneak in under the wire. I have to see what time I get in.
Be a professional and call from the car. No, I'm just kidding.
Make it happen.
I think our flight gets in at maybe 9. I don't know. We'll have to see. I'll get closer. I don't know.
Dude, relax.
We'll get there. But with that being said, the Sports Frenzy Pod on Twitter, the Sports Frenzy Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Go like, subscribe, comment, let us know what you guys think, and we'll catch you next week. Peace.